hypersensitive is either you naturally having more open channels, a trauma response, or a combination of both. And depending on you having the right tools to deal with it, it can become something that works against you, or it can become your superpower. Because not knowing where you stop and others begin can drastically decrease the quality of your life. And it's true. In essence, we are all one. But for the most, this experience is meant to be lived through as an individual. So let's get into it. Sorry. Because you are not an energetic trash can, right? You have to start seeing yourself as a 24-carat golden bucket. You wouldn't stuff that thing until it loses its original form, right? You wouldn't stuff that thing until it would get out of touch with its essence. So keep it clean and make sure it's only filled with the necessary things. Because life becomes undeniably more challenging if you are a hypersensitive human being or sensitive in general. And I have quite a backstory when it comes to that. And I came to a couple of conclusions, perceptions, which I will share with you today. First of all, like I said before, some people are naturally born with more open channels. Others became hypersensitive as a result or response to trauma, or a combination of both. In the end, it doesn't matter where it comes from. All that matters is that you know how to deal with it, how to live with it, so it stops messing with the quality of your life. Because the world that we live in is one large cooking pot, one quantum soup, and most of us can only perceive 0.0035% of everything that exists. But that doesn't mean that you can't feel it, especially when you're sensitive. So how do we deal with the self, our own energetic bodies, and everything that happens around us at the same time? And I will go through a couple of things and then weave it all back together so you can make sense of it for yourself. So when it comes to me, I've always been extremely sensitive to the world around me. When I was a child and even later on in life, I couldn't understand what I understand now. My energy has always been an amplifier of my environment. And what I know now is that I was born with a nervous system that was wired like a tuning fork, picking up everything around me, and even the frequencies that people wanted to hide. I just had like too much awareness, and from a young age, my field demanded truth and honesty. But all that was within a system, the world and my family, that was built on control, oppression, fear. Like nothing made sense to me. Nothing. I didn't fit in any boxes. I didn't behave the way they wanted. I saw things that they didn't want me to see. I felt extremely deeply. Well, they were out of touch with their own feelings. And I had this sort of natural power that they couldn't understand. So they labeled it as problematic. And maybe you recognize yourself in that, because it happens more than often. A lot of things to tell you when it comes to this, but maybe I will go into that deeper in another video. For now, point being is that from early on, I've learned that love is basically non-existent or very inconsistent, and that if I express my truth, that it might cost me everything, because it did. And no one saw me, no one understood me, no one protected me. And as a result of that, I became hyper aware. I had to become my own protector. Always scanning the environment, always wanting to be 10 steps ahead, always watching, always anticipating, because no one had my back. So I had to create that safety for myself. What people see as too much or anything like that, especially when it comes to a child, more than often, It is a direct result of them feeling exposed in their incapabilities of handling the depth and the sensitivity of that child. And everything that it's exposing within them, more than often, is just giving another meaning to the discomfort that they feel inside of themselves. Because they lack the capacity to meet the depth and sensitivity that that child holds. There are children that carry certain soul codes and too much light for a world that isn't able to see it yet. They are mirrors and amplifiers that shake everything awake in people that rather stay asleep. So, as a child, you get punished in any kind of way for reflecting a level of depth that the adult isn't capable of holding. And a lot of adults, because they are inherently put themselves above children, have great difficulties with holding power without controlling it. So they want to shape it and mold it in something that they think it should be. And so the child becomes a battleground for everything that the adult refuses to confront within themselves. And not even only children, like the whole projection loop, it happens everywhere, right? But back to the story. I myself had to navigate a lot of darkness with hypersensitivity. When I look back at it now, I didn't see it as sensitivity back then because I didn't understand it. I just felt everything extremely deeply. And it was combined with very dark circumstances, so it amplified everything, right? It was up until the point that I couldn't even look people in the eye because I felt all their pain. It was very intense to navigate. That is where entanglement starts, right? Because your soul doesn't know how to half-ass things, so to say, right? To half feel or to half love or to half do anything of that. It is like full in with everything you have. If you love so deeply, if you see so fully, up until a point that you look at others drowning or self-destructing and your whole system screams as if it is happening to you. And that is the thing, you have to know where you stop and where others begin. The basics of that are that just because you feel something doesn't mean it belongs to you. Just because you understand others' pain doesn't mean you should carry it. As you put yourself out there as a portal, you often let all kind of energies move through you without boundaries. And a pillar is able to let energy move through without becoming it. It is still sovereign on its own. When you navigate the world, you have to be able to interrupt the pattern, pause, and ask yourself, is what I feel now, is that truly mine? Does it belong to me? Does it even belong to me? And if not, you have to return it to source. What I always do for myself is transmute it to the highest form of light. As long as you are clear on this is not my frequency or this is not part of me, and check in with yourself consistently. Because you are not here to absorb distortions of others. You are here to transmit your own truth. And you can only do that if you have a clear channel. Back in the days, to go a little bit back in time, I didn't have any idea when it comes to this. So from the age of 11, I started to smoke weed, use drugs, drink alcohol almost daily, because that was the only moment I felt a sense of relief. The only moment that I felt like I didn't have to deal with the pain of the world, the pain that I felt inside. Oops, my belly, hungry. But after doing loads of work on myself, I finally came to understand what was happening and what I truly needed in that process. So throughout my life, even if I was like suffering myself, I've always wanted to be a part of the solution in any kind of way. And as a result of that, I've worked in the most extreme places, like things you cannot even imagine. But little did I know that that would become my much needed training ground for energetic mastery. Because now I know how to separate and how to master my own energy. And of course, there are still moments that I can cry about things that are not necessarily mine, but that's part of being human. Other people's energy can trigger your own wounds, your own pains, or spark our nervous systems into re experiencing certain things that we are not conscious of because they live within our cellular memory. So, how do we deal with those triggers, right? Let's first go a little bit deeper into the collective and how other things can affect us as sensitive beings. And I will give a couple of examples of how I navigated that. Because for me personally, if I see people self destruct, it can be anything. People slowly dying of eating disorders or addictions or anything, just the route to pure self destruction, right? And you see that in front of your eyes. You see it happening around you, especially when it's our own blood. Like my mother, for example, she was heavily addicted, and it was one of the most traumatizing experiences of my life. The first quarter of my life I spent trying to save her. Like everything was entangled with her process. It was very, very difficult, and especially to break loose from that. And of course, how deeply something affects you depends on your sensitivity, but also the proximity that you have to someone. You can see it as, this quantum soup that I told you about. No joke. But you can see it as this large network. Everything is interconnected. When something shakes, it creates ripples. Like if there's an earthquake, the areas closest get hit the hardest. But if you are an open channel, even things from a distance can reach you because it's easier to feel a much wider range of what is happening in the field. But in whatever situation, if we see people around us self destruct, losing themselves or erasing themselves, being in this pain that they cannot seem to get out of, and if you see this pure self destruction of humanity, it touches something ancient within us. It's the part that knows that life is sacred, that we people are supposed to thrive, not disappear, self destruct. And because of my own experience, I've always known that these kind of people carry immense sensitivity and often a ridiculous amount of unseen pain. So much so that it resulted in needing to find some sort of control outside of themselves that they weren't able to find within themselves or in earlier situations in life that felt so out of control that now they grab onto all kinds of other things to restore a sense of control within themselves in desperate need to feel something from the inside. And what they are actually looking for is a part of themselves that got lost somewhere along the way. What they are actually looking for is God. But the disconnection makes it impossible to reconnect. And it's so sad. It is so sad. It is extremely sad. But what I figured for myself is that what I'm sensing by witnessing those kind of things is collective grief. It's not just about that one person, it is the reflection of where we stand as the collective, as humanity. It is about why this world lets those kind of things happen, about how those things are a direct result of us failing altogether. how we still to this day worship the wrong things. We worship beauty, but we fail to protect it. We consume people's downfall as content. The way we hide pain and darkness, cries for help, behind aesthetic filters. It is not that crazy. It's not that crazy if you cannot ignore all those things. It is your very essence, your connection to source. It is your heart that refuses to go numb. We must learn to gain deep understanding on a wide variety of topics, to expand. Because understanding doesn't make things disappear, but it gives us the right tools to meet them with strength, to meet ourselves with strength, and the world with strength. Understanding is liberation. Because what you don't understand will owe you. And what you understand, you can then alchemize into an entire different experience. You have to be able to see beyond the veil and to make conscious effort to see more within yourself, but also around yourself. Like I said, most people only see 0.0035% of reality, which is also just a construct, but let's not go there. There's so much deceiving going on, so much distortion. It's funny because not even 2 days ago I saw someone walk on the street. This is just funny. And he had like this trash can, this 500 ml, like a half a liter of energy drink in a trash can. Like it was big. And he was walking around with it, and I was reading what was on it, and it said golden power. I was like, golden power? Like they hijack words like golden, go into the meaning. They hijack the words with a strong meaning, golden and power, but what they actually sell you is a trash can full of liquid garbage. And then you can say it is the fault of the seller, but we also have a responsibility to read the label. So we put ourselves in a position where we can make informed decisions. So there goes our own responsibility in putting conscious effort in seeing things clearly, in going a little bit deeper than what you can see. And it works both ways when it comes to distortion or things that are deceiving us, but also when it comes to situations that we are witnessing as a human that are happening outside of us. We don't see the full story. Sometimes we need a little bit more depth and a little bit more research where we can see things clearly for what they really are, so we don't have to carry unnecessary energetic waste. So back to where we were. If we talk about people with addictions or people that struggle online, for example, or around us, everything where you can be open to if you are sensitive. This applies to everything. If it's people close to you, if it's people online that struggle, influencers, or people that struggle with addiction or eating disorders, it applies to absolutely everything. What we have to get clear on first is that often what we see play out in others around us or within the collective are soul wounds so deep that the only way they feel safe is through a sense of control of the body, control of the image, addiction, control of whatever they grab onto outside of themselves. It is a desperate need to gain back control and to feel it from the inside. And if you cannot find it in a natural way, you're going to substitute it with the artificial way because it's a deep need that you have that doesn't go away. You want to find ways to sedate the internal chaos. And those people often have a subconscious belief that their worth is only be found through suffering, some sense of discipline, image, control, perfection. It is a trauma response to a world that never fully saw them in their pain, beyond the presence, the performance, the walls. And it runs deep because still this day, most of us are living as a smaller version of who we actually could be. Putting a version to the front that is most likely to receive less resistance. Sometimes people even build a complete identity around their pain, their suffering, where true healing becomes a threat to the only self they have ever known. It's very extremely twisted. It's so tragic, the fact that still today there are so many people that are completely wired into believing that disappearing and erasing themselves is safer than being fully seen. It's tragic. And to weave it back into the part that I discussed earlier, you have to know that that is exactly why those things can hit you so hard. When you see and feel it in others, it is this sense of reminding your own suffering and not being fully seen in it, having to drag yourself out of the depths of the darkness, the invisibility of your own pain, because you know with every cell in your body how it feels to be in deep pain. It is the reminder of the invisibility of your own suffering. So when you see those things in other people around you, and especially when those people are close to you, it is way more than just compassion. It is your nervous system being reminded of your own pain. It's the recognition of a familiar frequency, the feeling of no one sees me, no one sees how bad it really is. But now you're looking from the outside in. That is why you have such a visceral reaction to it. Can feel very dark, very heavy, because indeed your whole system is responding to a past version of you. And if you are spiritual intelligent, you know that everything is connected to everything. So what happens to another simultaneously happens to you. Your whole system reacts to it, automatically wanting to help, wanting to take the pain away. But you can't. And all it does is it shows you how awake, how open, how emotional, spiritual, intelligent you are, how compassionate you are. But I will show you a way to hold that compassion without losing yourself. In the end, you cannot save other people, but you are meant to recognize them. Because you are sensitive enough to see what others don't. And that can feel extra alone at times. But if you are sensitive without boundaries, it becomes entanglement. Just because you see things clearly, it doesn't mean you're supposed to carry it. And just because you recognize certain energy, doesn't mean you're supposed to interfere with the process, with other processes. Because in many cases, what we are actually witnessing, reading the label, is a soul contract playing out. A soul contract that we got nothing to do with. And it sounds harsh, but even the soul contracts of our parents, sisters, brothers, we have nothing to do with that contract because we have our own contracts. And what you see unfolding within each and every person is a contract around addiction, control, illusion, dissociation, disconnection, or even extreme battlefields and extreme darkness that they have to overcome. And sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is to refuse to become part of that illusion. It is a short experience, human experience, that each of us needs to evolve, to reconnect with Source. And you can witness that without interfering while still holding love from a distance. And this is how we're going to shift that, because we can turn recognition in remembrance and then use that to empower our own path. In the end, you are not here to save people. You are here on your own journey. You have to be very careful with how you spend your energy. And sometimes it's just very unrealistic to think that you can save everyone, especially the ones that are still falling. Every time that outside situations are triggering you, you can say to yourself, like, I see them, but I cannot carry what is not mine. Everyone has to carry their own baggage. If I start carrying everyone else's baggage, it becomes too heavy for me too. A single candle can light up 1,000 candles without losing its own flame. But the chain of light will end if you dim your own. You can remember without going back. You can witness without making it yours. Before I go on, personally, I had a couple of instances back in the days, because I've been from social media for 5 years. I just got back. But before that, I had instances where I felt responsible sometimes, if I saw things happening outside of myself, even like people that are close to me, but also just things that happen in the world and online. And I often ask myself, what is the fine line between standing up, interfering, and keeping a distance? I feel like that's a good thing to share, because also that you can apply to a lot of different areas in your life. So the whole question of when do I speak up and when do I get back to my own energy? Because I feel that we as a collective, as humans, are responsible in some kind of way, right? If we see things, we have to call it out, especially if there are like extreme distortions of some sort. So what do we do if we are witnessing certain things within the collective? What is the difference between taking responsibility and taking a step back? Because sometimes if we can see things clearly and we can name it very precisely without projecting or without the need to be right, then yes, in that case, yes, sometimes we are meant to speak up. As long as you make sure that the intention is not to fix something or to save someone or to convince people. Sometimes we do have the job to seed something clear within the field that can then grow in its own way. That is not the same as entanglement. That is energetic authorship. And the boundary is very easy to recognize. It is a combination between intention and how it feels in your nervous system. You can easily check in with yourself and ask yourself, am I speaking from an open heart or from a dysregulated response to pain, old pain often? Are the things that I say right now truly connected to my truth? Or is it some fear-based response to shake people awake? It feels different within your system. One feels very calm, even if it can be fiery, and passionate, speaking up, it still feels calm. And the other one feels more dysregulated, obsessive, heavy, draining, especially afterwards. So you always have to check in with yourself. It's not our job or even a good use of our energy to police the internet, to argue, to fight every opposite opinion, even if it's on serious matters. Or like even feeling like you have to correct every delusion, or monitoring someone's decline, or even with family members or friends or anything like that. Where you can actually find your power is being able to name things clearly, to plant a seed of clarity in a sea of noise, to create content or language or put things into the field that uplifts the collective. It's not your job to clean up the mess of the world, but to leave a trail of light for others that are ready to walk out of it. If you ever feel in whatever situation that you want to speak up, because sometimes we need to speak up, right? Just make sure you do it one time, clearly, make sure it's connected to the heart, plant the seed, and then step back. Back to your own energy. And a little thing that I wanted to add when it comes to entanglement, because in some cases we also let that happen while it's not really necessary. Especially when you're sensitive, you are checked in and tuned in into the situations of others or the processes of others. And before you know, because you are sensitive, open, your channels are open, and you interfered with certain situations, you are subtly tracking their processes. Just like energetically checking in, or where they are at, how is it going. And obviously when it's your parents or anything, it's way more challenging, right? But it can happen in all sorts of ways, or even with people that you don't know that well. So you are subtly tracking and hoping that there's going to be a light bulb moment or an awakening or anything, or you are bracing yourself for some kind of collapse of someone else, right? Whoever it is. That is something you have to be very careful of, because it comes with a cost. If you are aware of it or not, that level of psychic tracking pulls you into their timeline. And when your nervous system does that over time, it starts to strip you from your own vitality, your own sense of peace, your own nervous system safety, your focus, everything that truly matters in your life. Because part of you is on a call for a crisis that doesn't belong to you. Can you imagine how energetically heavy that becomes if you do that with more people? Or you have like a large family of people and you carry the weight of all of them. I had that the most of my life. I have an extremely large family. And even if it comes from compassion, it creates nothing more than a trauma bond. And sometimes a trauma bond with people that you barely know. You can care, but you don't have to carry. You can care, but you don't have to carry. And that will forever be the challenge of someone that sees too much and feels too deep. And often a mark of someone that went through the darkest depths themselves. Someone that knows how it feels to be unseen in their pain. But now you have found the way back to your light. It's your job to protect that light. And if you see clearly, that is the exact reason that your boundaries need to be even clearer. Before I wrap this up, something came to mind about the advice that some people give to highly sensitive people. I've been in the field and I've heard a lot of things and advice, and I think nothing is inherently wrong, but it depends on the situation. One of those things is that often people, coaches, whatever, tell people that everything is a mirror and everything leads back to you. And in a sense, this is true, right? But everything must be held with nuance and depth. When it comes to this, I hear too much things that it's just not always true. So let me give you another perspective on that. Because often what people say, for example, is when certain things happen with more people around you, then it must be you, right? Because that's a pattern. That sounds wise on the surface, but it completely ignores energetic context, spiritual sensitivity, group dynamics, and projection. Because yes, patterns matter, they deeply matter, and self responsibility is basic, it's foundational, right? But what's also true is that when you are naturally activating other people, you will constantly trigger unresolved energy within others. And that can look like multiple people reacting to you in the same way, but that doesn't always make you the problem. Sometimes it just makes you a mirror. If you historically have attracted manipulative people, relationships, healers, then of course more than one people can say similar things, but it doesn't validate the truth of the message. Sometimes it just shows the pattern of who you've been around. If your field is more refined than others, which can actually be true depending on in which environment you are, you will constantly feel that dissonance. Not because you are the problem, but because you are the only one that is tuned into the distortion. So just know for yourself, obviously take self responsibility, especially when it comes to your energetic household. But just know that the whole thing of if it's more than one people, it must be you, is a lazy spiritual blanket without any nuance. If you feel that you are really clear in who you are doing the work, and you are connected, trust that. And you don't have to reject every reflection. But what you must do is weigh them through discernment instead of distortion. To be able to do that, it is, again, very important to keep your energetic household clean. To wrap this up, this was a long one. Wish me good luck with the editing, because I've been talking for, I think, almost 3 hours. This is ridiculous. Whatever. This is what you need to know, remember, and write down. You can be compassionate, and it's a very beautiful character trait. Beautiful. And that's why you need to carry it with grace. Your compassion doesn't belong in a void. When it's poured into a situation that is not able to receive it, it doesn't transform, it doesn't help, it only drains you. Your absolute superpower lays in discernment, not in rescuing others. You're not here to save other people. You're not here to save people that are still choosing for destruction. You are here to embody your own truth and light, so much so that it awakens the ones that are ready to leave their beds. No, joke. You are here to embody your light and your truth in such an extent that it awakens the people that are truly ready for it. We don't make up the timing, unfortunately. We just shine and believe, trust, have faith in the fact that our light will reach the right people on their timelines. Any fixation that you have or might have with others or processes outside of yourself, just know it's just a mirror of parts within yourself that one day felt unseen, unnoticed in your pain. Parts within you that you had to save on your own. So you're not just grieving the pain of others, you're grieving parts of yourself. So let this be the turning point of carrying unnecessary energetic waste of others, which will do nothing but hold you back from everything you truly desire. So with everything that comes your way, feel it, breathe into it, let it move through your system, let it transform you, let it transform you where it touches you. cry for everything that has been lost, for everything that is felt, and then neutralize it and let it go. Or it lets you go as a result of going through that process. Feel it fully, let it move through your system, see it for what it is, let it transform you wherever possible, come to a point of neutrality, and then let it go. Other people's journeys, whoever it is, are separated from yours. They have their own contracts with Source. There's nothing you can do about it, nothing you can change about it. You cannot change that other than be the light that you are. Other than being the light that you are and hopefully spark others to create an intrinsic motivation within the self to change. There's nothing much you can do. You are powerful, but not that powerful. So, what is our job? What if it's your job to build something that others didn't have the strength to build, and that they were part of your journey to awaken the power within you, to make sure that you don't fall into the same mistakes? And you need all the energy in the world for that. So call it all back. Your clarity, your truth, your strength. You're going to need it all. You're going to need all of that on your path. So call it all back and let it fuel your next creation. Your next level of impact. That's it for now. Ik ga het hierbij laten. Carry yourself with grace and I see you in the next.